Hello and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show presented by the Craft Beer Nation. Tonight, it's November 3rd. We have a special guest in the house. We will be speaking with Andrew Castile, who's the founder of Laughing Monk Brewing out of San Francisco, California. And we'll be speaking with Jeff Mokler, who's the head brewer. So this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. I feel it in my soul. I feel it in my bones. You're gonna get educated. You're gonna get enlightened. You're gonna learn about this brewing and what they're putting out on the left coast. But I want to direct you to our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at Craft Beer Nation. We're on Instagram at the Craft Beer Nation. Obviously, you can find us on Facebook, Craft Beer Nation. You can find us on Google Plus, Craft Beer Nation. We're a community on Google Plus, so we're there in there like swimwear and underwear. So pour that beer in the glass, get comfortable, and make sure you come back and check out what these guys have to say and find out what's going on at Laughing Monk Brewery down in up in San Francisco, California. All right, so as I said, our guest tonight, I'm going to get to him in a second because first I want to introduce Gil Mello, who's my panel mate tonight. Gil, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's a good evening. It's crazy that it's 60 degrees in November, but hey, I'm having fun. You know, I know for the California guys there, they're just that's winter time, but for me here, this is awesome. So I can keep drinking.
San Francisco stays cold. It seems like to me. I went to San Francisco one time in like July. I left DC. It was 100 degrees. Got to San Francisco. It was like 55, and I was like, "What is going on?" So it's stout day. Are you drinking the stout?
I did a 10-feety, but now I'm doing Underworld just to cleanse my palate again, and we'll see what I'm drinking next.
Okay, it's going to be a stout, right? Obviously, because stout day. Just saying.
Stout is my mowing the grass kind of beer.
It's like, I just cut this grass. I could go for a nice brewery Black Tuesday.
There you go.
Anyway, so our guest tonight, Andrew Castile, Jeff Mokler. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. Great.
We are excited to learn some more about Laughing Monk. I keep wanting to say another brewery, Laughing. I'm not going to promote them right now, but it's about. I was thinking about Laughing Dog. I saw Jeff's like Laughing what? Okay. So you guys are in Cali. We don't get a whole lot. Well, I don't think I've ever had any of your beer because I don't think you have this. Okay, so confirmed. There's no distribution on the East Coast yet. Someday we'll get there, maybe, perhaps.
Brand spanking new, just Cali.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just Bay Area.
So Andrew, since you're the founder, let's start with you. I want to find out how your love affair with craft beer got. How did it get started? How did you get to where you are right now?
Well, back in college, I went to Caltech, and in Pasadena, there's this amazing beer bar called Lucky Baldwin's, and me and my friend Brian took on the nearly impossible task of trying to try every one of their 40 taps before they changed the tap. And so this was just a perennial competition of ours, and we would try every day to get through the whole list every weekend, and of course we wouldn't, and we come back and they were all changed. So we have these great tasting notes that start off really detailed and always end with woo. And that was my introduction to beer beyond what my dad drank, which wasn't too much fancy, just Miller High Life, and that was about it. And so that's where I started loving craft beer. After that, my hobbies are all about cooking and making stuff for myself. I want to make sure I have all of the essentials. Even if the world stops, I can still make beer. I can still make bacon. And so I started home brewing about 12 years ago, and eventually decided, no, let's do this for real.
Gosh, man, I wish I had the cojones to just go ahead and say, let's just do this. Let's just open a brewery. Come on, I wish. Andrew, I'm sorry, Andrew just spoke to Andrew. Jeff, I'm assuming you started as a home brewer as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you got the home brewer beard going on, man.
That's where you get yeast.
Definitely not. I just started the same way, homebrewing. Actually, I got into beer, and then my mom bought me a homebrew kit. Started homebrewing with my dad in the garage. Then I realized I didn't want to work for the family business anymore. And then I started knocking on every brewery door in Phoenix, like, give me a job. And I finally landed one for BJ's Brewery. And that's where it all started there for professional side.
Just make some noise one time for Mom for buying her son a homebrew kit. Mom, she is the real MVP.
Yeah.
For getting it all started for you.
Yeah.
So, guys, about the brewery itself, what do you say is your identity as a brewery? I mean, you are in California. You guys are in the heart of the West Coast IPA. Are you an IPA brewery? Are you a hop forward brewery? Are you a balanced brewery? What's your identity, or what is your identity right now? And is that what you wanted it to be?
Well, I think, what I always wanted was like when I grew up here. So yeah, I'm a Cali boy. I love the hoppy stuff, and so we're definitely half California, but we're half Belgian. We're Cal-Bel, a little bit of both. And so we try to keep a list that's got a little bit on both sides because, I love that each really showcased a different thing that was great about beer. You got all the great Cali hop flavor. Belgians got their yeast down. And if you wanted malt, you could go to the Germans or the English. And so the two favorite pieces of those I love are like that yeast character that you got in like a good double, like I'm drinking now, or like, the hop that you get out of like, a great IPA.
Which I'm drinking now.
So is one of those your flagship beer?
I think new enough that like it's kind of hard to pin down what our flagship is. We've only been around like about 8 months, and actually seasonally like different things are popular like it should be. We had our evening Vespers, the double is picking up now that the weather's getting a little colder. Coming into the winter, and then our various IPAs, which we've been doing different ones, being new. Got to switch it up a bit before you get all the hop contracts all like locked in. Those have been always performing really well. Jeff's on the new one, the Candlestick that we did, because we're about a couple blocks from where Candlestick Park used to be.
Yeah, and we're not focusing. We didn't open up with like 6 mainstay flagships and then 1 seasonal. We're making a bunch of beer, letting the market tell us what our flagships might be. Put a bunch of beer out there, let the public tell us. We're not going to shove like 4 beers down your throat and be like, this is our brands. Like, we'll develop it for the customer.
And I totally get that approach because at the end of the day, the customers are the people buying the beer, right? So
yeah.
If you want to stay in business, you better give them what they want. At least that. And now you got some guys like founders who I think their motto, and Gil probably knows this better than I do, but their motto is something like "beer brewed for us" or something like that. I get it. I think that's what they say, but if they're brewing beer for them and if nobody buys it, they're probably not going to keep brewing that beer for them. Right?
We're still brewing beer that we like, though.
We still got passion projects. Like, we're going to be doing a beer to guard just because I love that style. Like a more malty one, like not even like a kind of funky or sour focused one, but like I just love a malty beer to guard. So we're going to put one out there because I haven't really seen much of it out here.
So do you guys still, I mean, since you're still very young, Andrew, I'm sure you are always kind of, licking your chops. Even if you're not in the brew house right now, I'm sure you want to be in the brew house more than you are, right? Do you guys collaborate on recipes still, or is Jeff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
When I started this, being a home brewer, I figured like I'll do all the paperwork, get all the permitting done, do the zoning code stuff, change all that. And when that's all done, then I could finally brew beer. But it was kind of like that Simpsons episode where like, let's detach the rock of shame and now let's attach the rock of victory. And so there was just more paperwork once it was all done. So that's where, I was lucky to find Jeff and meet him through our Brewers Guild. And we had the same vision about beer because we've both been to Belgium, but we also both love like the hoppy stuff. And so it's really easy working together on the concepts. And then execution is all Jeff.
Yeah. So we'll just like shoot. He'll come up with the idea. I'll come up with one, and then kind of spitball, and then he's like, "All right, go brew it," and then we'll, loosely base a recipe, and then I design it and go from there.
Now, you just spoke about hops and stuff of that. One of the styles that's burning up the country right now is the New England IPA. You got some breweries on the West Coast that are knocking it out the park. I mean, if you like Monkish, they're brewing some killer New England IPAs. A Great Notion up in Oregon, great guys. They're brewing some killer New England IPAs. Do you guys have any plans to go along that same route?
We actually have one probably going to brew one in about 2 weeks or so. It's not going to be complete milkshake. There's going to be some haze to it, but I don't want it to be a yeast bomb. So trying to work on it, and it's going to start out somewhat bright. I was talking to one of the brewers at field work, and they started knocking some New England IPAs out the door. So I want to kind of follow their way of where it's hazy, but I don't want to see sediment in the glass.
like his first New England style depot was called Bright Day, just kind of like, actually like it's a pretty clear, beer for that style. Like, the flavor's still there, but definitely in appearance, it looks more like a West Coast.
Yeah.
And how could I forget about Fieldwork? Because I've seen some of their like photos of their beers online, and I'm like, that looks like something I want to try. So Fieldwork is doing good work too.
Yeah, they're doing amazing stuff. So, and they just started getting into the Northeastern style IPAs.
Awesome. What is along the lines of brewing? What do you project to be your output for 2016?
We'll be at, I think, about 1,000 barrels, and we started in March.
Okay.
Maybe a little over 1,000 barrels.
Yep.
Do you guys have a tap room right now, or is it just okay?
Yeah, a small tap room.
Yeah, we just got the space next to us to expand, which is most of what my job is nowadays, dealing with the Department of Buildings and all.
Well, nothing's wrong with a small tap room. There's a song. I live in Virginia now, but I'm originally from South Carolina, and there's a song. that we often play at cookouts, and it's one of the lines is, "The smaller the club, the bigger the party." So there's nothing wrong with the small tap room, man. Small tap rooms can hold big parties too. So nothing wrong with that.
Well, it's something new for the part of the city we're in, being the southeast part of the city near Candlestick. There wasn't really much around here. I had to change the zoning codes just to even get a brewery in this space. But I had my previous work was with the government doing advocacy around transportation. So I was used to that. And we got this great little spot, which actually before we opened, about a year before that, it used to be a players club next door, like an illegal after hours, right across our wall. And so it was like the spot to be if it was after 2. The guy who ran it, I actually ran into him, and it was hilarious. He's like, yeah, I made a good money, and then I paid a few fines, not as much as taxes, but nobody will rent to me now, but you got a warehouse, right?
Now you spoke about, the changing recipes and stuff like that. And so being a new brewery, you say, less than a year, you're not a year old yet, right?
No.
Yeah. So how difficult the whole contract and getting hops it is for you? Are you having to deal with just like a narrower group of hops, or because everybody talks about hops like the kiwi hops like Galaxy and stuff like this, and so is that being like a tweaking and challenging kind of thing for you guys right now?
It is and it isn't. You pay more money. You can find them on Spot Hops, but I can't find any Galaxy or Nelson. Those are gone, and I'm not going to even try to find them because they're so expensive. But we can land some hops, but just not a bunch of them. So we're just kind of spot hopping it, and that's why our hoppy beers are just rotating. We're trying to figure out what works for us, what works for the customer. So we're just making all different type of hoppy stuff. But for next year, we have some contracts locked in, so we're going to have a lot of fun hops for next year.
That was part of the decision to become half Belgian, half Cali. Is what's great about Belgian. It's not so hop forward. You can usually find the hops that will make a good Belgian because it's more about the yeast, and so we can keep those pretty standard. A lot of our mainstays we made a couple batches of are Belgians because again, those hops are not the rare ones that we're looking for. People are looking for really just the solid quality control and the yeast flavor. So it's a nice place to be in the market right now with hops being so hard to get the good stuff.
So that has challenged your creativity a little bit. You guys have to be creative and just not stick around with the West. Because, being in a West Coast, people come to expect the West Coast IPA. But I guess there's a thing now with so many brewers in the market. You have to be yourself, right? You have to be.
Yeah. But we still have really hoppy pale ale on with Mosaic and Citra. IPA has a bunch of different stuff, and then we have a double IPA. So we're still creating a good amount of West Coast hoppy IPAs, but our whole lineup is, we have probably a quarter of our lineup is super hoppy, then the other half is Belgian. So
I know you. Yeah, I was about to say you're leaning Belgian, but any chance of maybe an English barley wine coming at
some point, I've thought about barley wines. I do like them.
The Imperial Porter, I don't know which way you're approaching that, but we're going to have that out pretty soon. So a little bit of English influence there.
Yeah, doing an Imperial Porter, actually brewing it tomorrow, which all of it's going into a bunch of whiskey barrels. So we won't see it for 6 months to a year.
Yeah, so you guys are planning a lot of barrels right out the bat?
Yeah, there's craft distilling is kind of taken off in California. They just made a new category for, a permit for that. And so we're starting to see a lot of small distilleries come online. Like our neighbors just a couple doors down, Seven Stills. We've been getting barrels from them. We've been doing some collabs where they made some whiskeys out of our beer, out of our Bayview Gold. They made a whiskey, so one with a chamomile. And so you still get a little bit of that floral quality to it. And then we can get those barrels back and we can age something else from our Belgians in it. So we get a nice variety of barrels out here, especially with Napa for the wine barrels, and then like this new burgeoning craft distillery movement.
Cool.
So going back to the hop conversation real quick, I feel like we've been talking about a hop shortage for the last 3-4 years, but I hadn't seen it impacting breweries the way it has now. But that impact seems to be relegated to Australian hops, right? People having a hard time. Well, like Galaxy, Nelson. And I think Mosaic is becoming a little more difficult to get, but that's not an Australian
that
hop.
Hard, yeah.
That's Oregon, but Mosaic has actually opened up. It was hard, but they started playing a lot more of it, so it's not as hard to get. But so definitely the Galaxy and Nelson are super hard to get.
There's a guy who loves Mosaic.
who has two thumbs and loves Mosaic?
I'm one of those guys too.
And he's good about like chasing down the spot hops and such. Like, we got a really good Brewers Guild here. Everybody like gets along and helps each other out. And so you got extra, you just post it out there. And he's always the first to be like, reposting. Before I can even remind him, he's already like responded to the thread.
Like I try to purchase it. So.
And then what's nice about being new too, it's like, you're not going after like the permanent handles anywhere. You're new, people are going to try you out. So like having a rotating IPA or a pale and double IPA is not a bad place to be. It's always something a little different and, a little surprise for folks.
Oh yeah.
So
something dark fruit. A lot of dark fruit flavors.
With the Belgian beer you talking about, Gil?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like our evening vespers, like the double, and then we got a Belgian dark strong. So we get a lot of like your raisins, dates, prunes, all those types of flavors in the Belgian yeast. But we, both being like fans of the hoppy stuff, we tend to like hop it a little more aggressively than the Belgians do, just for a little bit of like have it be a little more refreshing than just straight malty and yeasty.
A little drier.
Any plans for a nice hearty winter quad by any chance?
I actually just filled a bunch of red wine barrels with a quad. So it definitely won't be available in this winter, maybe next winter.
Do you bottle?
Spring here in San Francisco is winter, so it'll work.
Yeah, it's fall year round in San Francisco. So
yeah. Do you guys bottle anything yet, or is this tap only and crowlers?
Yeah, tap and crowlers right now. We got a bottling line for 750 mils for the Belgian kind of malt forward stuff and yeast forward stuff. And so we're hoping that it'll be first quarter, but whenever I say that, knowing construction, I'll say second quarter. We'll get that up and running. And then just starting the in-state, at least for bottled supplies. I really love, I've always been a fan of like the brewery and their model of like, the pretty strong like beer club and being able to ship in-state in California. And so that's one of the ways I'm hoping to grow it and just get people to come out here and try it and then subscribe once they know that we got the vision that they like and they want the new varieties and wherever we take that. So
taking off your laughing monk hat for a second and just putting on your industry hat, going back to the hop shortage, and I just want to revisit this real quick because I want to get your opinion. The New England style of IPA has Galaxy is one of the more popular hops for that style. Nelson seems to be really popular for that style. Then you got some other varietals that are more that are easier to get here in the States. Do you think that the emergence of that style is contributing to the hop shortage? for those popular Kiwi hops, do you think that's strictly contributed or attributed to the emergence of the New England IPA style?
I think it's been going on for a while. I don't know if it's just the merchant. It's just IPAs are number one style beer for craft beer for years. So I think it's just IPA in general is causing this shortage. I don't know if it's East Coast IPAs. That's probably adding to it because you have to add so much more late edition.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of new now. And those Galaxy and Nelson have already been hard to get for the past few years. Just some of those breweries locked them up years ago and are doing a great job with them, or they have some good contacts.
I mean, as those tastes change, it's hard to have the hop growers keep up. I mean, you got 3-4 year lead times if you decide, oh, that's what everybody wants, and by the time you get that up and running, is that still going to be what everybody wants? And that's why the hop contract, system is in place. They got to have some guarantee if they put the effort in to expand their production that they're going to have somebody to take that on the other end.
And I think there's also something to be said about the fact that a lot of hop varieties have flavors that overlap. But like when you drink a beer with Galaxy or a beer with Nelson, you know that you're drinking a beer with Galaxy or a beer with Nelson.
Yeah.
And so I think part of it is New Zealand is it's a small country, and IPAs, just like you were saying, Jeff, IPAs are king in America. We drink a ton of them, so it's going to be difficult for them to keep up with our demand for that particular variety, but also the nature of that hop itself being such a huge a contrast in flavors to the hops that we were accustomed to, right? So that drives up demand even more. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of factors at play, and I feel like I hadn't, at least since I've been in the craft beer, I hadn't seen any other hop variety have be as difficult to obtain as those particular ones right now. Maybe early on.
Nelson's a super hard one right now. Like, you'll see it in secondary market where people, same with Galaxy, where they're charging double prices than what you can get from a producer, and it's just like, is it really worth paying twice as much to try to brew a beer? It's especially in New England IPA, I just can't do it.
Well, and also when there's there's all sorts of experimental hops available out there that haven't had a market built around them because they're that new. And if you're new too, you can start playing around with those, and who knows, you might just find something that's that next thing that people are looking for, just like the Nelson or the Galaxy,
That's true.
So that's really fun to look at. Okay, well, we know what the hop tastes are now, but what are they going to move to? What's the next thing that's going to be blowing up?
And if you're going to pay double for a hop, obviously you're going to. I mean, you're still running a business, right? So that said, you're gonna want to try to maintain some profitable margins. So now you're going to be making like a Galaxy hopped session IPA, right? Because you're going to want more yield for that for that same batch size, right? So
and I love that kind of a beer for just showcasing a hop in general. You don't need to have like a big ABV, and you can really let that hop shine.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I'm curious, I know for small breweries or new breweries, I should say, not necessarily small breweries, but new breweries, community is something very, very important, right? How has been your relationship? Are you guys feeling the support in there? Because California is a place with so many breweries right now. Are you guys were you able to build a community support? Are you guys feeling like the community around you is kind of embracing the brewery? I know a couple breweries that they survive on their local community alone.
Well, yeah, we my background before I was brewing, I was bike advocate, and so I did a lot of community outreach work, and so that was how I started looking at the Bayview. There really wasn't anything this far south and east in San Francisco to offer something brewed nearby. And so partially because the zoning code didn't let it. And so when I went in the process of changing all that, I did a lot of outreach to the community. I even started up a nonprofit because I knew how to do the nonprofit stuff to do art and around the community. So all of our street now, which is all in this great industrial area, back in the day, before we showed up, it was basically all ironworks, where whenever you need to get railings, this is where you came to. And so all those guys, we slowly talked them into it to put up some new, murals on the other side of the street and contribute to other parts of the city with some public art. And so we got a really good, strong following from the people right here in the Bayview. which is a neighborhood that not a lot of people talk about or like it is mentioned much in San Francisco, but has a lot of exciting stuff going on in food. There's all these other small producers, not just beer, but like we got a sake brewery out here. We have a small winery out here.
Meadery.
Yeah, meadery, and a couple different places making sausage and chocolate and other things. So we're hoping, like, as people start to realize there's a place to get all these, artisan products, that will bring even more people out into this neighborhood. But the people here are starting to get a sense of like, this is an identity. This is where in San Francisco you can still afford to have a warehouse. You can still afford to make something that's actually physical and not just software in San Francisco. And so that all helps us out. We got regulars that come by that have been at businesses that like been around for 50 years. And it feels good to be like shoulder to shoulder with those guys and think about how far back they've gone. Hopefully that we'll be around that long too.
And we're doing just, we're trying to do something different than a lot of California breweries, doing Belgian beers, going outside the box of just hops, which I love. I'm basically only drink IPAs most of the time. When I'm done brewing, I pour myself an IPA because I like something refreshing. But we like to brew different things to try to give options to everybody here.
Yeah, one that like caught on was surprised that you kind of like talked me into. We did this coffee and cream ale, like kind of like basic light cream ale base, a little bit of cold brew coffee and some vanilla beans, and it worked. Like a lot of the like people that aren't even beer drinkers that live in our neighborhood were like, "You can drink this. This is nice. It's like a cream soda with a little coffee in it,
Oh no,
Yeah.
coffee cream ales are awesome. I love coffee. We've talked to a couple of brewers that make coffee cream ales, and it's a taste that goes together. You can get a lot of flavor off because the cream ale is not so overpowering, right? So you can get a nice.
And it's nice to have a balance that isn't just like what we're used to in balance in beer, where it's like you got the malt on one end and the bitterness from the hops on the other end, or the malt and the sour. We've got like roasty and a little bit of like bitter from the hops, like balancing out like a lighter beer. Oh no.
Our guests are
having some technical difficulties. I think he saw it coming too because you heard him say, "Oh no!" right before it went out.
Yeah. Now the reason I was asking him about the community is that I think that's the future for a lot of the brewers. I don't preach the brewery bubble thing, but I think there's a lot of market for brewery. But I think a large amount of the breweries opening going to have to rely on their local market. They won't be able to get,
Hey guys, sorry about that. We got a little bit of glitch on our end.
No worries.
Yeah.
We heard you say, "Oh no!" right before it went out.
You're a little sideways right now, but that's fine.
There.
So Gil, go ahead. Gil was making a great point that I think you guys will be able to relate to. Go ahead, Gil.
No, the reason I ask about the community is like I was just saying to Randy that I by no means I preach the bubble thing. I think there's for any product, right? There's a great amount of market but I do believe that there's going to be a point where a large number of the brewers open nowadays, or that have opened already, they're going to have to rely on their local market and their community because there's only so many shelf space on grocery shops and stuff, and I think that the local community is going to be very, very important for a lot of breweries, and I think there's a good relationship. That's a big thing on craft beer is like this give and back. I haven't been to a craft brewery that haven't somehow connect to the community, a little league or having some bikers coming or bicycle or runners or joggers, and I think it's becoming a place where people come to meet. And I think that's that neighborhood, the old pub neighborhood style kind of thing. And I think that's the future for a lot of breweries. Not saying that's the case of Laughing Monk, but I think that's going to be a big deal, how you cater to the people that live around you.
It's taking it back to that pre-prohibition way that we did it. You had the corner brewery. There wasn't really big distribution available. So you got the beer that was nearby, and that was your identity. That was the beer that you got. And the nature of our product, such that it always declines in, like, especially the hoppy stuff, declines in quality. The further you get from the source, you're going to want to drink the local hoppy stuff, whatever it is. When you travel, you're not just going to be a one beer guy like, my dad was, wherever he was, he wanted a Miller High Life. But that's not the way anymore. So I love that about it. It's something kind of beautiful. when I went to my first GABF, I was trying to try everything possible, but I always had to keep coming back to Peekskill Brewing up in upstate New York. The small guys, you know, they had this amazing like American Imperial Stout. I couldn't decide if it was hoppy or if it was malty, if it was roasty, if it was hoppy. It's, you know, this great teeter-totter with like a 2-ton weight on either end, just perfectly balanced. And you know, I was like, hey guys, where can I get this? And they're like, you got to come to Peekskill. And there's something beautiful about that.
That's what so I went to GABF for the first time this year, and that's what I thought was the awesome thing about it, was that you can you get a chance to try beer from all over the country that are probably never going to have distribution in your area, and you get exposed to these other people who are making and there's a model that works for that small guy opening and serving his community, brewing that awesome beer. And that's, you know, piggybacking off of both of your points. I've said it before. If you listen to this podcast before or watch any of our videos before, I think right now I might be sounding like a little bit of a broken record, but not everybody wants to be Sierra Nevada. Not everybody wants to be Stone, right? Not everybody wants to be New Belgium. You can serve your community and be, you know, there's a model that works for you to do that. And I think that gets lost in the discussion when everybody's talking about, oh, the craft beer bubble. There's over 4,000 breweries and they're saying we're at a bubble, but there's over 8,000 wineries, but nobody ever talks about a wine bubble. To Julia Herz's point,
I think there might be a shakeout. You know, some people are going to fall off that are doing it just for money grabs. You know, maybe they're trying to open up a brewery to sell out. Like, you know, if you don't have passion, they might close because there's competition. But overall, it's not going to be a bubble and half of us are going to disappear in 4 years. That's not going to happen.
And I'll tell you what, about 30% of the breweries I visited this year, and I've been to a lot of breweries this year, I would say 30+% wasn't make really good beer. You know, usually you just either they, you know, it's there's that special thing as in any business too. I mean, there are some people that just not gonna make it because the product is just not what people are expecting. But
great beer is the entry ticket.
Yeah,
it's not like you're gonna make it. It's just the entry ticket.
There's so much competition now. You just have to make good beer. It wasn't like it was, you know, 5 years ago where you could just open up as a local brewery and people respected you. There's so many now. You have to make good beer. So people in beer, they might fall off.
So those pipes behind you, are they piece of art or they're actually functioning pipes?
I'm gonna guess that's coming. That's the auger from your mill room to your mass tin.
Yeah. So you have one mill from each side. Is that what you have?
Oh, so it was we got an interesting shaped space here that ended up with all this. And so we're in the malt room because we got, you know, customers out in the tap room, had to find a quiet spot. But we had the artist that worked with the nonprofit came and did all of our walls, did murals on all of our walls just for fun, you know, just because we had, you know, safe, comfortable space that they could, you know, paint in. And so those are some of the murals back there. Some of that's Mel Waters. Some of that is Cameron, who was on Street Art Throwdown. And then, our auger kind of like goes over to our
Chris case.
Yeah. And then out to our system, which is on the other side of the wall this way.
So if you're listening to the podcast, you're probably not watching the video. You could go to our YouTube channel and you can see what they're talking. But basically, they have 2 pipes on an axe formation going up and down. and it so happens that it's in front of a bird mural. So it's almost like engaging the bird there. So that's what we were talking about. So
the irony is we got all of like the back of the production space done up in murals. And then we started talking to the building, you know, department, and they're like, "You've got to put flame retardant panel over all those murals." So this is the one room that they didn't cover up all the murals. We got pictures first, but it was kind of sad. I was sitting there like, "Oh man."
Well, before we get out of here, we want to give you guys a chance to talk about you guys. I know. Well, I guess you kind of touched on it throughout this conversation. What are you guys going to be releasing here on the horizon?
We have a new wick beer we're going to brew next week, which we're sourcing basically coriander from Garden Strone in the Bayview in San Francisco. that we're going to use. Then we have basically our New England style IPA we're going to brew. And then we have...
We got we had some success with our sour. We did for the Pink Boots International Women's Brew Day. We did a mango goes, which went over so well. And so like it was almost like a margarita meets a beer. And again, it's that market of people that aren't really beer drinkers, but they want to you can pull them in. And so we were thinking because we got a lot of fans of Yacht Rock here in our staff, we're gonna do a pina colada goes, like a little bit of coconut juice and a little bit of pineapple in it. And then we got a lot of stuff in barrels. I can't even keep track.
So tomorrow I'm brewing an Imperial Porter for a bunch of whiskey barrels. Then we have some Chardonnay barrels filled with peach triple. Then we have Belgian Imperial Stout and whiskey barrels, quad and red wine barrels. So we're just stacking up our barrel room right now. So that will be available 6 months to a year.
Cool. So you're looking to use a lot of wine barrels?
Yeah.
I still think there's so much wine barrels in the West is so underused yet on the beer world.
Yeah, we're gonna play around with it a lot because wine is somewhat delicate, where you can kind of let the beer shine through, or if it's a big wine that can kind of. There's a lot of stuff. We're just gonna practice with wine barrels. Just fill things up, taste it, blend it, let it go. We're bringing some brandy barrels in for some things.
A lot of Belgian styles have a lot of the same tendencies as a white wine. So, a triple in a white wine barrel, it's playing off of a little same, but a little different at the same time. So, and then even a little bit of red wine can work with them with that nice citrus, and spicy quality. So we'll see what comes out of it. That's the fun about being small and new. You can just play and have fun.
Real quick, how big is your system?
15 barrel brew house.
Okay, cool.
That's a good size to start.
Yeah.
But you probably have a few vessels then.
Yeah, 12, 13 barrels just to give us runway, in case, we find something's taken off and we got to increase production. That was the advice from our friends at Cellar Maker. They were advising us when we were getting started. And they're like, the one thing, that you should do at the beginning, you don't think you're going to use it all, but you want some more production because when you need it, it's always too late.
Yeah. Sometimes we always try to explain to people on the show that, although you have a 15 barrel system, it's so much more about how many fermenters you can line for that system rather than having a bigger system. It makes no sense to have a bigger system if you don't have enough fermenters. So you can actually put a lot of beer out in the 15 barrel system as long as you have enough fermenter to store the beer.
Yeah.
It's better to have it and not need it. Better to have it and not use it than need it and not have it. So
yeah,
there's that. All right. Well, and lastly, what about any festivals? Any festivals coming up on the San Francisco area that you guys are going to be pouring at, or are you just kind of taking it easy right now, getting ready to roll into the winter season?
I think festival season died off a little bit here. I don't know of any coming up.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything big for a little bit. It kind of picks up again in the spring. We just got some little local events from our community that we're pouring at. It's a big third on third event that they have every month, and so we're always pouring over there with all the other local breweries and the wineries.
Cool beans.
Yeah. And you're probably the first brewery interview in the last 2 months that didn't use the word pumpkin throughout the interview.
First brewery since July that didn't mention pumpkin.
Pumpkin, yeah.
Because we know pumpkin beers now come out in July, so.
I got enough pumpkin latte in my life. I'm good.
There you go. Starbucks gives you all that you need, right? Well, guys, we want to thank you so much for your time. This has been fun for us because you guys are only 8 months old, so obviously we haven't had a chance to have any of your beer. But whenever I make my way back out to San Francisco, I think you guys will definitely be one of the breweries that I check out. Gil, do you get to San Francisco much during your travels?
I do. No, I do. I go to Pasadena, but sometimes I do Pasadena and Boise, and I drive, so it's kind of on the way.
Days in a car.
Kind of on the way.
Airport. So if you fly into San Francisco, we're basically on the way into the city. So
yep,
definitely a good stop.
Cool. Well,
hope to see you out here sometime. Hope to see you guys out here sometime.
Me too. So that's it, guys. Once again, thank you so much for your time. I know it's still well, your work day is probably winding down over there on the West Coast. It's bedtime for us, but we ain't going to bed anytime soon. But nonetheless, thank you for your time. For those who are watching or those who are going to watch, be sure to join us next week when, we will have a local brewery here in Virginia. We will have Ocelot Brewing Company. Their owner, Adrian Whitman, is going to be joining us next week. So that should be a lot of fun. Well, I'm a little biased because they're 30 minutes away from me. So, but yeah, be sure to join us next week.
Be going crazy, man.
Yeah. Be sure to join us next week when we have Ocelot Brewing Company on. So, once again, thanks to Laughing Monk, guys. And until next week, remember, find some great friends, find some great beer, and mind those P's and Q's.
Cheers.
Cheers.